Today, we are diving into a truly monumental idea from David Deutsch's incredible book, The Beginning of Infinity. We're going to explore this concept that human progress, well, it has no limits. It's a journey into what knowledge really is and what that means for all of us.
Okay, let's start with something wild. Back in 2004, there was this massive explosion, a gamma ray burst, billions of light years away. And for just a few seconds, it was so powerful you could have seen it from Earth without a telescope. Now that's more than just a cool piece of trivia. It's proof of a fundamental truth. The reality that our senses show us is just a tiny and often misleading sliver of what's actually out there.
And that gap, between what we perceive and what's really happening, that brings us to our first big idea, the deception of experience. For most of human history, this simple fact that the world is not what it seems held us back in some really profound ways. So let's ask a classic question. For thousands of years, why did some of the smartest people in history look up at the sky and decide with total confidence that the entire universe revolved around the Earth? Well, the simple answer? Because that's exactly what it looks like. You see, the geocentric model, the one with Earth at the center, it just feels right, doesn't it? It's based on our direct experience. The sun appears to rise and set. But the reality, the heliocentric model, is that we're the ones who are moving. The universe doesn't spin around us. Our whole view of it is an illusion created by our planet's wild spinning and orbiting.
Think about it. The ground beneath your feet feels completely still, right? But it's actually rotating at an incredible speed. That sphere of stars up there looks totally real, but it's just a projection. As David Deutsch argues, it's because our senses didn't evolve to understand the cosmos. They evolved to help us survive, and that is a very, very different job.
So this all begs a huge question. If our senses are so unreliable, how on earth did humanity ever make any progress? And the startling answer is that for most of our history, we didn't. We were stuck in what you might call the trap of the past. And that trap has a name, inductivism. It's this common sense idea that the future will basically just be a repeat of the past. It sounds logical, right? It assumes all true knowledge comes from what we've already seen and experienced. But for millennia, this way of thinking kept human societies almost completely static. And here's where inductivism just completely falls apart. It would predict that since people have only ever been seen to fall, we will never fly. But of course, we did fly. And we didn't do it by observing more people falling. We did it by creating a brand new, radical theory of aerodynamics. See, progress isn't about repeating the past. It's about creating explanations that allow for a future that has never existed before.
So, how did we finally break out of that trap? Well, that brings us to the real engine of progress, the discovery that literally changed the world.
That's the pivotal question, isn't it? What changed? What was the spark that kicked off the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment, leading to a kind of progress our species had never, ever seen before?
The answer, according to Deutsch, was a brand new way of creating knowledge, the search for what he calls good explanations. Now, a good explanation isn't just some story that happens to fit the facts. The key is that it's hard to vary. That means you can't just change the details around without the whole thing collapsing.
Let's break that down with an example. A bad explanation for why the seasons change, the goddess Persephone is in the underworld. It's bad because, well, you could easily swap in a different god or a whole different myth, and it would still kind of work. It's easy to vary. A good explanation involves the tilt of the Earth's axis. It's incredibly specific. If you change the angle of that tilt or the shape of the orbit, its predictions about the real world suddenly become wrong. Its power comes from how tightly it's locked into reality. And this hunt for good, solid, hard-to-change explanations, well, the consequences are world-altering. And I mean that literally.
This leads us to one of the most provocative ideas in the whole book, captured right here in this quote. We're all taught to think of Earth as this fragile life support system. But Deutsch argues the exact opposite. The system that supports billions of humans today wasn't given to us, it was built by us, using knowledge to transform raw materials.
So how does that work? How do we build our world? Well, it's kind of like a four-step process. First, we make a creative guess, a conjecture. Second, we criticize it. We attack it from every angle until it's refined into real knowledge. Third, we use that knowledge to transform our environment. And fourth, that process actually transforms our world, turning useless stuff like sand into vital technology like computer chips.
And this is what makes our species completely unique. Deutsch has this great term for us, universal constructors. A bird is genetically programmed to build a very specific kind of nest out of specific materials. It's what you'd call a limited constructor. But humans, with our explanatory knowledge, we can figure out how to turn pretty much any raw material into any other physical form, as long as the laws of physics don't forbid it.
So, okay, if we're universal constructors with this amazing power to transform our world through knowledge, what does that really mean for our future?
Well, the implication is huge, and it's incredibly optimistic. Deutsch's argument is that all evils are simply problems caused by a lack of knowledge. A hurricane isn't inherently evil. It's a physical problem we haven't yet figured out how to solve. A disease isn't some cosmic curse. It's a biological puzzle we just haven't unlocked yet. And if you buy that, the next logical step is mind-blowing. All problems are solvable. Now, this isn't some naive pie-in-the-sky optimism. It's a principle. It means any physical situation we don't like is a problem, and if we can find the right knowledge, we can solve it. The only real limits are the fundamental laws of physics themselves. And all of this, it brings us to the book's central, absolutely breathtaking conclusion. Since there's no known limit to how much knowledge we can create, there is no limit to our ability to solve problems. We're not at the end of some grand story. We are standing at the very beginning of infinity. So, I'm going to leave you with a question that just flows right out of this entire way of looking at the world. If all problems really are soluble and human progress is infinite, what fascinating problem should we go out and solve next?